Alright guys, welcome back to another video here. I'm going to be doing a review of the Monday Night Football game between the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia ends up winning this game 34-24. This is a pretty much capitalizes a sweep of our team. We've pretty much lost both games against this football team. This is the best team right now in the NFC East. So the Philadelphia Eagles sit at the top of the division right now at 6-1. They're 3-0 at home. We're sitting right now at 3-3, even 500. And two of our losses are to a division rival, and we got another division rival coming up. That's going to be it for a later video. There were a lot of us that didn't necessarily see us pulling this victory out. I was one of them. Yeah, and to be absolutely honest with you, there's just too many factors that were working against us. The spread on this game was 5 points, 5.5 points, and we haven't had a 5.5 point spread in a couple of years. Usually these two teams come down to the wire, and the spread's usually at about 2.5 or 3.5, because things are usually decided within a field goal. This particular game, there were a lot of injuries that were at play. They were going to play a major role. We had a lot of players that were playing extremely hurt. I don't think Trent Williams has seen a full day of practice or a day of practice in 2 weeks. Pretty much the only time he suits up is on game day. So he's pulling a London Fletcher. He's questionable day to day. Now there's rumors that I'm hearing that we may end up resting him, which I think we probably should have done since, I don't know, the last 2 weeks. But I digress. We had a lot of injuries in the secondary. That's where we were really hurting. Began to show a little bit, and yeah, we just had a lot of injuries last week. Last couple of weeks we've had a lot of injuries, and we had injuries in this football game too. So we haven't been able to make it out of any of these football games in the last 3 or 4 weeks without suffering some major drawbacks as far as injuries are concerned. Some areas we're down to our third level, our third tier of throwing a player out there to see what we can have him do, because, you know, next man up and next man up are injured. So I definitely think that if both teams were healthy, this would have had a much different outcome. Maybe not necessarily a difference in the score, but I know we would have put up a much more of a defensive effort. But having said that, this game, this game went predictable as far as I'm concerned. It really wasn't a whole lot that surprised me about this game, although it wasn't necessarily all that fun to see. It's another primetime loss for us, and it's another division loss for us, and it's a division loss on the road. So this is going to count heavy, way heavy against us as far as our future in December and January go. Taking a look at some of the statistics here, Kirk Cousins ended up throwing 30 out of 40. Went for 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Carson didn't do too bad. Carson was roughly right around the same area. He was 17 for 25 for 268, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. Rushing yards really was not a big rushing game. There wasn't a whole lot of running the football by either team. The leading rusher for Philadelphia was their quarterback, Carson Wentz. Right behind him was LeGarrette Blount, and they were having 14 carries for only 29 yards. Our leading rusher in this football game was Chris Thompson. He had 7 carries for 38 yards, and I think one of those was pretty much a majority of his yards. But Rob Kelly had 7 carries for only 16. Second place rushing was Kirk Cousins with 3 carries for 18 yards. So not a whole lot of rushing. I don't remember Vernon Davis's 4 receptions. I remember 2, but apparently he had 4 receptions in this game for 67 yards. We did activate a little bit more of Jordan Reed in this football game, which was something that I felt that we needed to do. We needed to see more out of him. We needed to see more out of Doxson, and we did see more out of both. Jordan Reed had 8 receptions in this football game for 64 yards. So that was really, really good to see. We even got Niles Paul activated in there too. It was a nice little dump off to him. He had 1 catch. Jamison Crowder had a couple catches. Ryan Grant had 3 catches. Terrell Pryor had 2 catches. Jamison Crowder, I already mentioned Jamison Crowder, Josh Doxson. We did a fairly decent job of dispersing this ball to different targets, so that's really, really good to see. Philadelphia, that went as predictable. Zach Ertz had a big day, had 5 receptions for 89 yards. Then right behind him, you've got the Nelson Aguilars and the Alshon Jeffries and the Wendell Smallwoods. That's pretty much how how it ends up going as far as receiving goes. So the interception by Kirk Cousins. Let me get into Kirk Cousins first. Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, played about an average football game, maybe a little bit below average in this football game on his part. There were some passes in there that I feel that were not necessarily on target for him to throw. There are still some plays that a ball is going nowhere. A ball is ending up in a particular zone, and the thing is that I'm not going to put that on Kirk Cousins. Those are timing route patterns, and if you do not run the right route, it ends up looking like what you see last night, and that is a ball ending up with nobody there. And it's a miscue, it's a misread. Somebody's not reading coverages, somebody's not reading if it's exactly what situation they're in, whether it's press man coverage or whether it's zone, what the coverage scheme is, whether it's single high safety or whether it's cover two. And you're not running the right route. You're not in the right particular spot that you need to be to receive that pass. And I don't know if I necessarily put that on Kirk Cousins. I have a feeling he's throwing to the area of the football field that he's supposed to be, just the person running the route's not necessarily where he's supposed to be. It just makes him look incredibly inept. So I'm not going to put that completely on him. I'm not even going to put completely on him the interception. I think anybody with two eyes can notice that he was hit before that ball was even out of his hands, and it ended up going to a defender. And hey, that's the breaks, man. That's just football. You end up getting pressure on a quarterback, you end up putting a hand on somebody when he's getting ready to throw that football. You're going to throw in there and throw. So that is something that tends to happen every once in a while. It doesn't happen often against this offense, but every once in a while it does. And the one thing that is driving me nuts right now, the one thing that I will kind of put on Kirk, because I think he's a big part of the reason why this is the way that it is, and it's still driving me nuts to this day, is I've been saying this for weeks, and I said it week one against this Philadelphia Eagle football team at home, is I was fairly certain in that football game in week one that the Philadelphia Eagles had our snap count. We were not creative with the snap count at all. They were jumping the gun on us and getting in the backfield before we could do anything about it. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't really see a whole lot of a difference in this game. And I don't think you were going to, because against a home crowd for Philly, there's not a whole lot you can do as far as audible snap counts goes. It's going to have to be a time situation where if the noise is loud enough, then it's pretty much you're going to have to tap the knee of the center, and the center's going to have to hike the ball when the center hikes the ball. There are ways that you can mix that up a little bit. There are certain things that you can do to kind of mix that up just a little bit. There is going to be a certain level of expectation, not expectation, but I can't even think of the word right now, but there's going to be a certain level where they're going to be able to jump the ball. And just because of the crowd noise, you're not going to be able to hear that snap count, so I'm going to give them a little bit of that. But there were a lot of plays in this game where the cadence was exactly the same over and over again. And a couple times, maybe two occasions where I felt Philadelphia may have just a hair jumped off sides that didn't necessarily get called. And hey, you know what? Rightfully so. It doesn't bother me that they didn't get called. What bothers me is we're not doing anything about that particular snap count, not trying to change things up in that area. And we've had plenty of weeks since week one. This is week 7 right now, and we've done nothing about that. And Philadelphia's been able to predict that, and I can guarantee you that we're going to have future teams taking a look at that as well. Blitz packages. There were several occasions where I was able to see us change coverages and move coverages to kind of adapt to what the defense was giving us. A couple of occasions I saw that. However, on third down, it didn't really seem like we came up with too much of a contingency plan for a jailbreak blitz. They would blitz 2 and 3 individuals, send in 7 and 8, anywhere from 6 to 7 pass rushers at one time. And you have these slow developing. I understand it's third and long, or the situation may be third and long, and you need to have a receiver that gets, that depth to get the first down. You don't necessarily need to do that. You can throw it right behind those linebackers and have that play take maybe 2 or 3 seconds to matriculate, because you're sending everybody in the backfield. There's nobody in the backfield to cover, so that spot is wide open. But yet we end up having a 5-step drop and waiting for a play to develop before we throw the football, and he ends up getting sacked. And that's something that we did not adjust to. We did not adjust to third down blitz packages very well at all. Definitely not in the first half, and definitely not in the second half. Screen pass was about the only thing that I really saw that was a contingency plan for that. The running game. There was no running game in this football game. There was never going to be a running game in this football game. If you were expecting us to run against Philadelphia, then you don't know Philadelphia. One of the things that's kind of driving me nuts is that, you know, I'm seeing more and more responses to the rush attack, or the lack thereof, the lack of a productive rushing attack towards our opposing teams, pretty much resting on the shoulders of who it is that you have carrying the football. It's not the individual carrying the football. It's the individuals that are blocking for the individual that's carrying the football. In my opinion, Burgundy Fly Guy's opinion, we've got 3 really decent backs with the exception of Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson he's not a between the tackles rusher, although he can be. He's not going to last too long if you end up having him back there carrying the football between the tackles, but he is a good running back. He can get you around the edges fairly well. So that lays, you know, pretty much the brunt of the meat and potatoes of your running, between your tackle type running, downhill type running. That leaves it pretty much in the hands of a guy like Rob Kelly, Samaje Perine. Perine was hurt. Rob Kelly ended up coming back. You know he's still hurt. You know he's still playing hurt. And I'm hearing a lot of arguments towards Mack Brown. I don't care about Mack Brown. I don't care. I can tell you right now, if you guys are taking a look at his career in Florida, and if you guys are taking a look at what he did in preseason football, then you seriously need to reevaluate your assumptions on how a running game actually works. For one thing, our offensive line is not executing the way that it was the first couple of weeks of this season. They're hurt. We are not pulling the way that we were against LA. We're just not. We're slower. We're slower. We're a little bit more lackadaisical. We're injured. Trent Williams is not a mobile individual. We're seeing him go. Honestly, we're seeing him go in the backfield on screenplays. And that's one thing, but coming around the edge is another. And we're expecting individuals like Sean Lovell to pick up the slack on that. We're even sending our center, Mr. Long, to go across center and be able to do that. And also Brandon Sheriff on the right-hand side. Morgan Moses, who's been hurt since day one of this season. You're not even expecting him to pull a whole lot, and we're even pulling him. That's part of the reason why we're slow, is because we have these individuals that are playing hurt. They're playing with injuries. They got ankle injuries. They got knee injuries. They got all kinds of injuries going on. It's harder for them to execute. If you are not executing on the offensive line, your running game has no chance. And we do not have a running back on this football team. I don't care who you are. We do not have a running back signed on this football team that is going to have a productive game with a lackluster offensive line that's not executing. It's just not going to happen. The Mack Brown situation, I've seen Mack Brown run, and I don't think Mack Brown is really all that much better than Rob Kelly. I don't think Mack Brown's really all that better than Samaje Perine. I can tell you right now, Samaje Perine is a hell of a lot stronger than Mack Brown. You take a look at this guy's weight room results. You take a look at the way that he plays. He's playing hurt right now. You can't necessarily You can't have a contingency for injury. These guys get hurt. I like Perine back there more than I like Mack Brown. If Mack Brown gets more touches, will he get better? Probably. But that's not the way that the situation falls. That's not the order in which this falls. You just don't start throwing individuals in there expecting this running game to get better when the running back is literally probably a very small portion of the success of your running game. There's other areas that need to improve in order for that running game to improve. Moving along, I liked that we started using a little bit more of our outside wide receivers. We saw Terrell Pryor drop 2 passes, which really pissed me off, but he came back and caught a couple of passes for us, 2 passes. His longest pass was for 4 yards. So these are short, little ticky-tacky, slowly short developing plays that we're end up throwing him, which is fine. Hey, whatever gets him in the groove, I don't care. 3 passes caught by Josh Doxson. I've said it for the last couple of weeks. I wanted to see more balls go in his particular direction. We're starting to see that a little bit, but the biggest thing in this football game has been Jordan Reed. We've been waiting for the Jordan Reed train to show up. The last 2 weeks, we've been using Jordan Reed primarily as a run blocker, and he is not a run blocker. He's a papier-mâché run blocker. He's not a guy that he's gotten better at not getting holding calls called on him, but beyond that, he's not going to block anybody. And he's been a big part of the reason why our running game also has not necessarily executed as well, because when you're running that double tight end set on the left or the right hand side, you've got 2 tight ends that are out there that are blocking. That's not an extra lineman. That's Vernon Davis and that's Jordan Reed, and they are basically the outside contain on your running play, and those are not the guys you want to be blocking. Vernon Davis is a decent blocker. He was way better when he was playing for other football teams, but he's older now. He's probably one of the better tight ends that we have blocking. But Jordan Reed definitely is not that guy. And a lot of some of our running plays have been contingent on Jordan Reed doing his job. And that's not a position you want to be in. That's not a position you want to be in as a running team. So definitely it was good to see us utilize Jordan Reed for something other than blocking schemes. So it was good to see him get activated. He did end up getting hurt again in this game. He's been getting hurt pretty much every single time he's had a decent game for us, and this is getting probably just as frustrating for him as it is for the rest of us. But all things being equal, I like to see us going to him. Hopefully he's still able to get some more production out of us. I don't even know if he's out. He looked like he had a significant injury in this football game, was able to come back. Kudos to Brandon Sheriff. Kudos to Brandon Sheriff and Morgan Moses. That right-hand side got beat up. This was a very, very physical football game. This game that we play against the Philadelphia Eagles and the games that we play against the Dallas Cowboys are some of the most physical that you're going to see in football. These guys go out there and they put absolutely every single effort that they can into every single play. And I'm sorry, but 100% does not mean you're going to come away squeaky clean as far as injuries go. Sometimes 100% is going to land you on the injury roster faster than anything. Playing at full speed, full contact, no mercy, no holding back, hitting somebody as hard as you can and getting hit as hard as somebody else can. It's going to take a toll on your body. And it definitely took a toll on this football team. On that offensive line, on that right-hand side, Brandon Sheriff had a really scary injury. That was a really, really scary injury. There's a couple of them. For one thing, the one thing that I definitely want to mention, Brandon Sheriff, who had a really scary injury, I hope that it's nothing serious. I hope it's something that he's able to come back from. Morgan Moses ended up messing up both of his ankles. He could barely walk, let alone he still came out and played. You got to give that guy kudos for having guts and being able to come out. And I don't know if we have much of a backup for him. So I don't know if there's really much of a choice for him to come back out on that football field, try to walk it off and come back out and hope you don't get hurt again. So kudos to both of those individuals. I would like to have a huge shout out, and I don't do this very often, but I'm going to do it in this particular video because of the close proximity with these teams that we play in this division. A huge shout out to Jason Peters. Jason Peters is a guy that you respect as a fan of another team in the NFC East. He is an 8-time, 9-time Pro Bowler, one of the best left tackles in the game, and he always has been. He's always come out in these games. Him and Fletcher Cox both are individuals that come out and they really try to show up for the Washington Redskins games. This is a huge rivalry for both of those individuals. And same thing with Trent Williams. You're talking about some of the best lineman play that you're going to see at that left tackle position is a game that you want to tune into for the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. And we have always seen the great respect that is shown towards these two players week in and week out. And none of it was more evident than when Jason was being helped onto the four-wheeler to get carted off the field, that our team captain, our veteran in the locker room, probably the biggest spokesman on this football team, and probably the biggest admirer of this football team, of Jason Peters, and the person that plays his position on our team, Trent Williams, coming out and wishing him well. That was good to see. But I personally hate to see Jason Peters get hurt. Because if we ever beat the Philadelphia Eagles, I want to beat the Philadelphia Eagles at their fullest, at their fullest capacity. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys, same thing with the New York Giants. I hate to see their best players hurt and sit out. Of course, I'd love to see our team win. If it means that we're going to win, I'll take it. But to me, a victory is much, much more well-savored than when you beat a team at full capacity. I don't want our team was injured to be an excuse. And that's kind of what I've been doing in the beginning of this video, but it's kind of true. We've been very, very banged up. Philly has had a really, really good stretch as far as injuries have been concerned, and they've been able to kind of minimize some of those injuries. With the exception of this game, they've lost a huge piece in Jason Peters. I think he would have been evaluated today, and I haven't necessarily gotten an update on how he's doing. But anyways, shout out to him. So if it's any consolation, there's a chance that we're going to end up missing our left tackle as well. There's rumor that we're going to end up resting Trent, and I really don't know. I don't know what's going on with Ty Nsekhe. If those of you guys have an update on him, that would probably be advisable. I don't know exactly when he's expected to be due back, if he's done for the season or what. I haven't really caught that much up on some of our backup players. Defense, taking a look at our defense. Not having Jonathan Allen in this lineup hurt us. It hurt us. We were seeing a little bit of Matt Ioannidis getting in the backfield, but I haven't really noticed so much of him getting in the backfield without that offset of a Jonathan Allen. I think you're able to draw more of a double team situation and some backup running back help with a Matt Ioannidis coming up the middle without a Jonathan Allen in this lineup. And I think it was really, really evident. We didn't see a whole lot of tremendous this pocket collapsed fairly reasonably. But another big part of the reason why this pocket collapsed is because we did throw a lot more blitz packages at Carson Wentz. And just taking a look at the defensive line of the side of things, our inability to get off on third down and Philly's big playability, we just don't have the rotational pieces. We don't have the stamina to really be able to hold that middle up the way that we should. Taking a look at the outside edge, I didn't really pay that much attention to the outside edge pass rushing in this football game. The one thing that did surprise me was Ryan Kerrigan. Ryan Kerrigan, this is a huge nod to Vaitai on the opposing team. If you remember last year, Vaitai got schooled against Ryan Kerrigan in the football game that we played against them. It was not even close. Vaitai came in this football game when Jason Peters went out to play left tackle, and all of us Redskin fans, I'm pretty sure at that point, were kind of chomping, kind of licking our lips at the idea of that matchup once again. And Vaitai did a much better job. He's got a lot more experience. He's played a lot more in this season, so he's got more games underneath his belt, so he played a lot better against, our outside pass rush, especially where Ryan Kerrigan is concerned. Ryan got into the backfield every once in a while, but really not a whole lot of pressure on his part. Preston Smith was mentioned a couple of times. Haven't really seen a whole lot of him as far as pressure is concerned. I saw a lot of inside linebacker pass rushes from Mason Foster and Zach Brown. We saw both those guys. Now, there was a couple times we'd send both of them. We were trying to send exotic blitz packages to try to get to Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz is just, he's the Aaron Rodgers of our division as far as trying to get him down to sack him for a loss. And I say that because he's very squirrely, he's very tough, he's just big. They say that he's, North Dakota strong? I don't know what the hell any of that crap means. North Dakota strong, whatever. Whatever little cliche you want to spin on it, trademark it, make some money off it. I don't care, but that's really all it is. It's a stupid saying. He's 6'6". Okay, he's a big, big boy, and it's hard to bring a guy like that down, especially when you over pursue. And I think that's going to be the gist of us going up against Carson Wentz until we can get some people that can bring that kid down. I think it all starts with that defensive line and some better play out of our linebackers. But this backfield was so. Who do we even have back there? I was surprised we didn't see, D'Angelo Hall back there playing safety. We started to notice who's not the individual that you want to throw up against that tight end, Zach Ertz. DJ Swearinger is not an answer. He wasn't supposed to be. DJ Swearinger, he was not going to be an answer for Zach Ertz, and Zach Ertz was pretty much there at any point in time that Carson Wentz wanted to. Anytime that offense wanted to go to him, he was pretty much open. I'm at the point right now where I want to see a little bit more on my plate from Junior Collette. This is his moment. He's got a couple months left of football. October's almost over. We're coming into November and December. Right about now is the time you kind of want to turn it on. You've got a couple of games underneath your belt. You're still healthy. You're still in it. And you're still fighting for a long-term contract. You're under a one-year deal right now. And frankly, you got kind of a big toilet bowl going right now as far as sacks go. So at least not the double-digit sack numbers that we were looking at when you were playing for other football teams. Granted, you had two massive injuries you've been nursing the last 2 years. Now that you had a couple games under your feet, I'd like to start seeing a little bit more out of him. I also kind of want to start seeing a little bit more out of Preston Smith. That middle linebacker play, I've been very impressed with Zach Brown. I've been very, very impressed with Mason Foster. I think I could see us maintaining that good level of play, but I want to start seeing stuff from our outside linebackers a little bit. Some play needs to step up there, whether it's Martrell Spate, whether it's Preston Smith. I don't care who it is. Somebody kind of needs to step up there. Our secondary is our secondary, man. There's nothing I can say that's going to make the situation better. I've got nothing for you other than the fact that we're injured in this area. We're talking about bringing back Josh Norman, possibly for the Seahawks game or the Dallas game. I can't tell you that I think that would be a mistake. I'm going to say it right now. He is one of the highest paid corners in the game. He takes a big portion of our salary, and he really needs to be out there earning that salary. I understand that argument, but I really, really want Josh Norman to play as many of these football games as humanly possible. And sometimes before you can go forward, you have to take a step back. You take a look at the injury that this guy has sustained. It is a rib injury. And like they said in this game, man, it hurts to yawn, it hurts to breathe, it hurts to cough, it hurts to sneeze, it hurts to yell. And it's a hairline fracture, which means it's going to be extremely painful. And yes, there's cortisone shots you can take for that, but a hairline fracture is just a baby's breath away from a fracture. And that's the only thing I'm worried about. Josh Norman's not that big of a target, and there are a lot of plays where our secondary is the first point of contact on this defense. And he's got to be able to get in that mix and make some of these plays and make some of these tackles, because they're going to be running to his side if he comes in a little bit too early. And that's the only thing I'm worried about. I would sit him until at the very earliest, I would even contemplate bringing Josh Norman back as against Seattle. But I don't know if you want to bring him back against a road team. To be honest with you, I don't even know if I'd bring him back then. So at what point do I look at bringing him back? So the game after the Seattle Seahawks, I'm looking at the Minnesota Vikings at home. That would be the absolute earliest that I would contemplate bringing him back if this is what we're really, really looking at. So hopefully he'd be able to maintain that. That's probably looking a little bit towards the middle of November. He'd have about a month and a half to be able to play to make a difference for us. I'd sit him for 2 more games. That's probably not going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back against Dallas, and at that point we're just going to have to cross our fingers and hold our breath. But that's half of our defense at this point, crossing our fingers and holding our breath. This game did not go any way other than what I thought it was going to go. I did not expect us to have a running game. Their linebackers are fairly healthy. Their linebackers crash the football really, really well, but you're not going to run against Fletcher Cox and Timmy Jernigan. It's just not going to happen. That's one of the best defensive fronts that we were going to face this season, and we faced it again on Monday night. And we didn't run against them in week 1, and we definitely didn't run against them now. There was nothing that we did during the regular season that was going to prove to us that this running game was going to be that much more significant this second time around against Philadelphia. It just wasn't going to happen. That front is too stacked. And you pretty much saw the results of that. I don't care who's carrying this football. He's not going anywhere. So a big part of this football game is going to come down to Kirk Cousins on his arm and being able to throw us to victory. And with his defense being what it is, and we've got a kicker who never kicked a single day in his life, and he had some shaky ones, didn't he, at 25, 30 yards? What's it going to be like when this kid's got to put up a 40-yard, 45-yard field goal? Your guess is as good as mine. So, yeah, I did not see us coming out with this victory. I was surprised to see that we only lost by 10. I was expecting us to kind of lose by at least, 13 or 14 points. So that's going to do it for me, guys. This game pretty much went the way that I thought it was. Congrats to the Eagles. I hate that football team. I can't stand Philadelphia. But you can't deny what they are. And they are the best team in the NFC East right now. They took a lot of us by surprise, including me. A lot of cylinders are firing for them, but there's a lot of football left to be played. And I wouldn't be flapping my wings a little too much this early in the season because a lot can happen between here and January. Taking a look at the Philadelphia schedule coming up. Not that I really want to concentrate a whole hell of a lot on this. Yeah, we got the San Francisco 49ers, the Denver Broncos. I wouldn't be scared of Denver. Dallas and Chicago would be the two games that I would really want to circle on my calendar as far as Philadelphia is concerned. As far as we are concerned, coming up, we've got Dallas. That's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a home game. It's going to be a morning game, so won't necessarily be a primetime game for us. That'll be good. I think we can beat Seattle. I'm more worried about Minnesota than I am Seattle. The only thing that worries me about Seattle is that 12th man, but that should always be a worry whenever you go into that stadium. Is you should be worried about the 12th man because that noise factor is going to be huge. We didn't have to play KC on the road. We don't have to worry about playing Denver on the road. Both Denver and KC. Actually, no, wait a minute. We did play KC on the road. So we did have to contend with that crowd noise. That crowd noise in Kansas City is fairly comparable to Seattle. So if you can perform fairly well against the Chiefs, then you can perform fairly well against a much worse Seattle Seahawks team. That team is not the playoff team that a lot of people remember. They are susceptible to be beaten. And taking a look at their record right now, their record's not necessarily, they're 4-2. However, they are 2-0 at home, and I have not been impressed with the teams that they have been playing. We're going to be one of the tougher teams so far that they've played. So I am kind of looking forward to that game. The Minnesota game scares me. That's a game that's not going to be a duck walk. The Saints game kind of scares me a little bit. So pretty much those two games right there are the ones that worry me a little bit. I'm more worried about the Minnesota game than I am the New Orleans Saints. So I think the Cowboys are beatable. I think that we can play well, but again, the injuries are going to be a huge thing. Who it is that we have available and how healthy they are is going to depict whether we come up with a victory, because I am not at all have any faith in this place kicker being able to kick us to victory with a 3-point margin. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Give me your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think and be looking forward here. I'm going to put up a Cowboy review game probably next week. Actually, no, this week. It'll be this week when I put it up, probably on Friday. So that's going to do it for me, guys. We'll catch you all next time. And remember, us fans, the Twin Feather, we ride together, Redskins for life. Peace out. We'll catch you next time.